How y'all doing? This is another video response to Suvarenee's Humans Are Perfectly Rational. If you haven't seen it yet, I'll put a link down below. It's where she gives her own thoughts in a nice little cartoonish way. They're using a Cartman doll and a walrus, and using Cartman to explain to the walrus that humans are superior because of our rationale. We are not given into to our own hubris and such. Go ahead and watch it first before I continue on. And when I say this, I want to get my own 2 cents. Sorry if this sounds like I'm breaking down, like explaining a joke in detail after you've already heard it, and which you may not find as funny, but I just feel like I want to get this out of the way. And while rationale is perfectly useful to the human race, I mean, it's gotten us this far in all ways, in all the things we've achieved. It is not a sense of superiority to us. After all, we went through over 500 million years of life before one species had developed the level of rationale that we have. And then look where it's gotten us in the last couple million years. Although most of life can seem to go just fine without it. So it's not needed for life to go on. So it's not a sense of superiority despite our abilities. It does give us an edge to solve the problems that we face in this world. It gives us a way, for us to look at things, take in all these little bits of facts we observe, put it together and see if there's a pattern, and we can find out, see if we can solve an issue or a problem or not. And it's a wonderful tool. But I equate this in the same way that, that rationale leads to truth, in the same way that genetic heredity equals personal identity. You go hand in hand in many ways, but one does not necessarily dictate the other. After all, one does not necessarily find it rational to go to war with people, but going to war did provide its own rationale in the first place. Especially, think about it. In a very simplistic manner, you have a group of people looking at another group of people, and they say, look, we got to take out these guys right here in war, because if we don't, they could come over here and take away our standards of life and put it less than where we were happy with, or by attacking them, we will get their resources and bring us up further than where we were before, because that will help solve the problems we have currently. Again, this is a vague, very simplified example that did use some rationale. The solar system is also another ways that, in its development, to where when the first models were made, was based on actual observations, but we rationalized a way that told what was happening up there above us. And the early Greeks who put this way, the Ptolemaic model, suggested that, well, we have certain bodies that are moving around differently than the further stars out. These planets, these little wanderers, as they called them, that they had to be, they're physical objects. So how are they moving across? Well, without the knowledge of gravity, they developed that, well, these things had to be within crystal spheres, inside these little crystal spheres that are surrounding the Earth, because after all, everything's spinning around us, so hence we got to be in the center, right? That's rational. And they got to be in some solid crystal sphere that's moving these physical objects across the sky from us. And you think about it, with the lack of knowledge of gravity, you can't imagine things being up in the air by themselves. So yeah, again, they're using a form of rationale. So, and the planets that are further out that don't seem to move past each other or anything, well, those are just kind of stuck there. But again, they also spin around the Earth as well. We're all in the center. Okay, that was a Ptolemaic model. Then, years later, we had Copernicus, who looked at the same observations, that Ptolemy used, and he says, okay, let's try this method. Put the sun at the center, put Mercury and Venus on the outer edge circling around the sun, and the Earth after that. Why? Well, we notice with Mercury and Venus, we see phases in the same way we see the phases of the moon. So we put it in here, we can observe in a way that can explain those phases. And anything outside of our own orbit, well, that would make, we don't see the phases of those bodies. We just see as light directly hitting on it. And again, he's using perfect rational solution, and it just happened to be more accurate than before. And yeah, a lot of us do sacrifice popularity for truth. Galileo, as what suvarenee mentions, that Galileo sacrifices popularity for truth. Actually, it's because he got popular with that is where he got in trouble. But I don't mean to contradict anything. But the point is that if you see something and you develop this idea, don't be afraid to bring it out there. But I think, when you do anything like this, I think the main hindrance of rationale is that sense of pride that swells up when we happen to be correct ourselves, or we happen to see the superiority of humanity in general. And because we accomplish so much great things and develop things that life itself didn't develop earlier, and we solve all these problems. But then again, pride is also the very hindrance of this. And so the only way we're going to counteract that is humility. That's the bread that's going to make, that's the yeast that's going to make this bread rise. How do I mean by that? Well, people who have a very superiority sense of themselves may be blinded by their own biases, despite their capability using a rationale to solve problems. A person who is humble could always look upon what he's putting together, or issues that they're trying to look into, and says, maybe I'm wrong. And if you've ever been wrong on a test or early homework or anything, as long as you see that and see it in others, that we are all flawed and can make mistakes, that should be the things we need to constantly remind ourselves in order to keep pride from building up into us. So, what's a better use of rationale? Well, look into history and see where rationale was badly used, and unfortunately we had to go through hundreds of years of it to get this hindsight. And always look at yourself as saying, well, I'm not a perfect human being, so maybe I shouldn't be prideful when conducting such things. So one thing, I guess I could just sum it up this is just swallow your pride, break it down, sustain off this humility, and hopefully you could use it to be a better person and help humanity in a better way. Alright, well, I'm sorry for this long rant here, and sorry if I go and all that stuff. That's just me. I kind of wing these videos as I can. But thank you for all for listening, and you all have a nice time. Have a nice day.